Good morning, everybody. My name is Chad Klein here, and we're going to get started on today's little webinar. This is going to be kind of a different one for us. We're going to be just doing a little training session, not even really advanced. Normally with the webinars, we like to get laser focused on one button or one specific field in the software. And the myriad of nuances that it contains and the different things that it can do. This one's going to be a little bit different and a little short. I'm just going to go through the invoice quote module. It's going to be a very basic training, perhaps something that would be a good resource if you had a new employee and you needed to show them very quickly how to ring somebody up without getting into the advanced part of it. So we're just going to take 10-15 minutes here, go through the invoice quote module, some basic layout stuff, and yeah, and that's what we're going to be doing. For those who don't know, if this is your first time joining us on one of our webinars, thank you for doing it. The people who come and watch us live, you can always go watch these recordings later on, but the people who come and watch us live, we really appreciate it. It gives us a little bit of energy here when I'm sitting in this room talking to my webcam. So I really appreciate you guys coming and joining us live here. Really awesome of you. So today, just going to give overview of the invoice quote module, the checkout process, how to navigate, the basic navigation there. Process transactions with different payment types, adjust the quantities and prices, using the Advanced Lookup tool to find some of these items. What if we don't have a little barcode scanner here that we can find the items with, or maybe the barcode's not scanning for whatever reason. There's some additional settings that we can set up there. So let's go ahead and just get right started on this. I'm just going to hop into Paladin. I felt no need to make slides, as for learning about Paladin, we might as well be in Paladin. So this is what we're going to do here. Okay, so here's the home screen of Paladin. The invoice quote module, I can get to it by clicking right there. If you have a touch screen, you can touch your screen. Also, Alt-1 on the keyboard will get you there. So escape to get back. Alt-1, see these little like 1s, 2s, 3s up here? These guys are letting you know, hey, if you hold down the Alt key and press that number, it will take it to this module. So Alt-1 gets me to invoice quote, Alt-2 gets me to customers, and so on. So Alt-1 invoice quote starts me off blinking at part numbers. Got a little barcode scanner in my hand. I'm just going to scan a few items. Now I'm going to scan the first item that we just did. Paladin is smart enough to realize, this was the same item as the first item that we already added, and it adjusted my quantity up to 2 right here. That way, if someone's getting 15 different couplings and they say, how many couplings did I get? I needed 15. You don't have to scroll and count all of these line items. You also don't have to have a receipt that uses an entire forest because it's so long. It can just use one line item with the quantity being the right one there. Now, if we are getting 15 boxes of Clorox disinfecting wipes, I probably wouldn't scan it 15 times. I certainly could. That functionality exists, but I'm just going to, that takes like a long time to do that, I would think. So I'm just going to click right here in quantity, enter 15 on my keyboard, and then enter on through. Keep in mind that when you change anything in Paladin, any field, as opposed to just entering 1 and clicking away, notice what happened. It just changed back to 15. It did not keep the 1 that I entered, so I cannot do 1 and then click down here for part number. Nothing happened. We use the Enter key in Paladin in pretty much any field as a intermediate save. Do you actually mean to put 1 in there? Enter, yes. Now it will keep it. Once I'm in a different field, I can go ahead and click away if I want to. So if you're adjusting a quantity, it might be a good idea to use the up and down arrow on the keyboard. So up, 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 1 over to the left, and now I'm at the quantity. I can, and then enter. You can just kind of hit enter as fast as you can to go through all the fields, basically like the tab key, and go down to the next line. Again, you can use the enter key to navigate forward in those fields. You can use the arrow keys both up and back and over to navigate these different fields here. I'm doing this with the arrow keys, just pressing the corresponding arrow that I want to go. So can I adjust price? Yes, I can. But depending on how the owner and the manager of the business have this set up, we may have some restrictions applied here that limit us from being able to go beyond certain prices. Let's say I want to sell this for a penny. Oh, Hey, look at that. We're going to need a manager's approval. Again, this is a setting. This may not happen in your system. This is a setting that's controllable by the owner, the manager. Maybe that's you watching. Maybe it's not. If it is you, then there's some settings in the background we can change to change the way that Paladin looks at these sort of circumstances. We'll get into that in a different webinar with more pricing detail stuff. But if that's not you here, then know when this window pops up, you're going to need to go get a manager in order to approve a price that you're doing that, or maybe you shouldn't be approving that price in the first place, and so we could look into that. So this is saying, hey, the minimum allowable price is $2.99. Looks like we don't want this item to be discounted at all. I'm going to need a manager's password in order to do that. I'm not going to do that. Okay, let's go ahead and add a customer to this transaction. Now, I could just click up here into customer, but notice what happens when I want to talk about navigation here, because different people interact with their technology in different ways, and I think it's important that you find the way that's best for you. My personal favorite is half keyboard, half mouse. I think you can kind of be a speedy little checkout demon here with if you kind of master those two things. Some people are really into the touchscreen approach. Whatever floats your boat, Paladin can do all three, or any combination of all three that your heart desires. So when I hold down the Alt key, I can now do Alt-C. Notice how the customer field there, the C is underlined. Look at the rewards field, the R is underlined. Look at the phone number field, the P is underlined. If I do Alt-P, where do we think the cursor is going to take me? That's right, you guessed it, over to the phone. Alt-R is going to take me over to the rewards field. Just like Alt-1, Alt-2, Alt-3 changes what module we're in, right? Alt-3, Alt-2, Alt-1. Or, of course, you could simply just click up here. Oops, excuse me. You could just click up here into customer and bring that right up. Either way, whatever is best for you. I really like the keyboard, like I'm saying. Okay, let's go ahead and start typing in a customer here. Broken contracting. There we go. Double-clicked on him once he brought up and added him to the ticket. Now let's notice what happened here. My red number's changed to blue. Blue is letting anyone checking out know, hey, this customer has some sort of automatic price adjustment applied to his account, price scheme, some sort of pricing matrix. So if we look over here, we can see that, oh, look, they're getting a 10% discount off of these items. So pay attention to those little things like the color of the prices, because that is actually changing the message that we want the clerk to be aware of. Hey, this is getting discounted. Just be aware that that's happening. Now, let's say I can't find the customer up here at this customer bar. Where would I go to do something like that? Same thing with the items. If I can't find the item here, beep, 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 it's not scanning, or maybe I'm selling a commodity item that doesn't have a UPC attached to it, like a stick of lumber, and I forgot the cheat code system that we invented. Was it 2x4t is a 2x4 that's treated, or 2x4, whatever sort of scheme you've got. You can't bring up the item. So the tool that we're going to want to get into here is F1 Advanced Lookup. You can either press F1 on the keyboard, press the bottom left-hand corner, of the screen, or you can just use the mouse, navigate to it, and do Advanced Lookup. This is a very powerful search tool that's going to allow us to sift through our inventory and customers in a myriad of bunch of different ways to find those items, find the customer, and add them to the ticket. Let's look at this. So inventory, we can search this by class, department, location, supplier, and keyword. We also have the ability to type in or to check the box that says exact phrase. If that's not checked, it looks at more of a broad, different order of the words. I could say search for Chad Klein, and it would bring up a Klein Chad. So it's a little bit more flexible, whereas if I type in exact phrase, or if I click that little box and then type in Chad Klein, it'll look for Chad Klein specifically in that order with that amount of spaces between the Chad and the Klein exactly. So depending on what you're wanting and how deeply you are familiar with this item, just know how that works there. Class and department are both drop-downs, as is location and supplier. Everything but keyword is a drop-down. So here in department, I could go ahead and just drop down, see everything in the plumbing department right there. Now, there's a lot of things going on in the plumbing department, which is why I like to use more of a class and subclass organizational scheme for this sort of thing. But I also have F1 right here. I can click on this and find results within there. So you can type in either a description or a part number, and it'll navigate it right to it. Once you find the item that you want, let's say that we wanted this item right here. You would put your quantity in here. Let's say we want one of those. Remember that we're going to use the enter key to make whatever number we put in that field so, or it's going to keep it there. So 1, enter, and then right down here on the bottom right-hand corner, we have F8 to add the item to the invoice. I could, of course, just press F8 on my keyboard, and it'll add it to the invoice. Notice price is still blue, discount structure still applied. The discount structure will apply whether or not the customer is added to the ticket at the beginning, middle, or end of the transaction. It'll always come up with the right price for the customer that is applied to it, regardless of when that customer is applied to it. You could wait till the very end, apply the customer, and all the pricing will change. Now, notice we're talking about keyboard quick keys here, so notice something what happens when I hold down the Alt key. Look up there at class, department, location, supplier, keyword. Boop. See all those little underlines that just happened up there? That's when I held down the Alt key. That's the little secret legend here that lets me know, oh, hey, that's the number to get the dot there on the keyboard if I'm a keyboard junkie and I really want to use just the keyboard and not the mouse or not my fingertips. So Alt-C puts the radio dot over into class. Alt-D puts it into department, and then I can start searching. You know, hardware, boom, bring it right back, bring it right up. F1 brings up the find results hammer. Let's do that real fast. Boom, there's 1, enter to do it, F8 to add it. So you can see, I didn't touch the mouse at all doing that. You can navigate the system very quickly with using just your hands on the keyboard. Okay, a few more things with Advanced Lookup here. Customer. We're not going to get into the history or the special order. We have entire webinars about how special orders are handled, how to properly do returns, and we go very deep into those tabs. So that's kind of not the point of what I'm doing right now. I just want to stick to the basics, how to navigate this, and let's talk about how to find some customers. Same thing. I have different search methods. All, name, account number, address, phone, rewards number. The Alt key here, boom, underlines the right one. So Alt-N brings the radio dot over there. Alt-C brings it to account number, and so on. Let's go back to Alt-A for all, which is why we had to have Alt-C for account number because Alt-A was already in use, right? And we can go ahead and find our customer here, Brogan. And this is not an exact search, so I could type in Klein Chad, Chad Klein, just Klein. I might even be able to misspell it a little bit. It'll still probably find me because it's looking for a broad combination of those letters in that order, but the words maybe not particularly in that order. If your spelling is absolutely atrocious, then I suppose it probably won't find the item, so you might want to ask the customer what their name is and how to spell it. But it is fairly flexible in how it can search for things. And if you see the mouse not move, but I'm going back a screen in Paladin, I'm pressing the escape key. That's the upper left-hand corner on the keyboard. And that little cancel button up there on the right-hand corner of Paladin, that's the equivalent. The escape key is the equivalent of hitting that. It'll always take you back a step here. Now be very careful. If I hit the escape key right now at the invoice quote, it is the equivalent of hitting the cancel key. So it will erase this entire ticket of what I just did, so be very careful. I've heard of a lot of people, a customer called me just the other week, saying if there was a way to turn this off because he spent a few hours working with this gentleman, bidding him a huge job. I believe it was a window job for a school that was being constructed in the area. And he reached for his coffee at the end, and his wrist tapped that escape key, and the whole transaction disappeared. So there's not really a way to get around that in Paladin. It's the way that the system was built. If you hit cancel, it's going to cancel it. But what I recommended that he did actually was go to the PVC aisle, right, and get a little chunk that fits right over that escape key, cut out about a half circle, and glue it right over the escape key. That way it's flush to the top. You can't accidentally bump it. You actually have to push into it in order to get the escape key. Kind of a janky workaround, but this gentleman was fairly pleased with it, and it has been working out pretty well for him ever since then. All right, let's go ahead and complete this transaction. I'm going to go down here to checkout. Very simple and straightforward. I could just click checkout. I could click checkout up here. I could also hit F8 on the keyboard. Not to confuse anyone with too many ways of doing the same thing, but page up, page down on the keyboard will also allow us to navigate between tabs in a module. Page up, page down, page up, page down. See, I can go back and forth. I could click on it. I also could hit F8 on my keyboard. All of them do the same thing, just trying to be flexible for different interaction methods and make sure that everyone's pleased with the way that they're interacting with Paladin. Here we've got some customer messages. I've got a credit card on file, so maybe we could use that if we want to. Checks are not accepted from this customer. And notice, this is not just a note that I have here. This is an actual checkbox that we've unchecked in the customer's module in their specific account. So F4 is check as the revenue type down here. I can't even take it. Can't even select it if I wanted to. So here we have the revenue types on the bottom. If the customer is paying cash, obviously F1 is cash. I could click on it or touch it. Same thing with charge here. I can click on it or touch it. Credit card, coupon. Here, we still give you the ability to store the transaction. Why? Because many times when a customer realizes I need one more item, I left my wallet in my car, those little events seem to happen during this screen. So in order to save the checkout clerk from having to go back to the previous screen, hit F6 to store it, we figured, hey, right here you can go ahead, suspend the sale, set it to the side, bring it right back up when the customer brings their wallet back or the item that they've forgotten. Okay, which revenue type would you like to take, Mr. Customer? Well, let's go ahead and let's do $10 cash. And the rest we're going to put on their charge account. Obviously, in a real-life situation, the customer would probably just put it all on their charge account. I'm sure this sort of thing happens, but it's very infrequent. I just wanted to show you guys you can very easily take multiple forms of revenue in one transaction. So bring it up. When you click on the actual revenue type, it'll start with the full amount there, just like charge is doing with the full remaining amount. If I wanted to do a different amount, I can just type it in, just like I did with cash. Nope, we're not taking $110.70. We're just taking $10. I just typed 10, enter. You don't have to hit the decimal. You do have to hit the decimal if you're adding cents to it that's other than 00, right? Or else you're going to make a huge, vast number. So we're going to do half cash or a little bit cash, the rest of the charge, and then I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter when I've confirmed that this is the amount that I want in there. Memo PO number. This is something that we've attached to Brogan's account where he has assigned a purchase order number that says, hey, I want this to be printed on every one of my tickets. A lot of your government buildings, large contractors, that sort of thing is going to want this on there. Authorized signers, we have this little asterisk required, so obviously we've set that up in the customer's account. Let's go ahead and say that Charles is going to sign this up. Is going to be the authorized signer for this account. Projects. We'll get into projects later. Projects is basically a way to organize a ticket under a particular label. So if a customer wants to pay, if they're in the habit of paying off their open charge account tickets by job as opposed to the running total, then you might want to shuffle this under a project, call it the Jones Fence job. And then when he comes in and says, hey, I need to pay off the Jones Fence job, you can quickly access that information. I'm just going to say none right now. Go on with next. Now, if you've got a Ingenico payment terminal attached to your computer, then Paladin will go ahead and ask you to sign it on there. I do not have a electronic signature capture device attached to my computer, so it's just going to go on through, try to print me 2 receipts so I can take a manual one. But at the end of every one of, just in your store, it would be printing a receipt right now, or it would be asking for a signature first, and then it would auto print a small thermal receipt, which you can turn on or off. But most people have it just auto printing to a thermal little receipt printer. I can go ahead and click on these. I can click again or I can just click on the keyboard. Number 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 is going to make me a duplicate receipt. 3 is a full sheet that will come out of the laser printer. 4 is a yard order. Maybe we have a printer hooked up to the back, so when you print that, the warehouse printer starts printing out, and the guys know, hey, we got an order coming down, we need to fill it. Maybe we can get a little ahead of the game before the customer drives around to the back of the building. Delivery copy, if you're not using the delivery app that comes with Paladin, this is a great way of just printing out a physical delivery copy sheet that the customer will sign and bring back to you after you get done with the delivery. Email receipt. You have to have an on-file email for this customer in order for this button to be even lit up. But you can go ahead, if it is, we do have a customer, an email on file for this customer, you can go ahead and just hit that. It'll email it off to them. Gift receipt, this will obfuscate the prices and say gift receipt on the top. And then EMV receipt prints out a small little EMV receipt that we had to create to be compliant with a few EMV regulations. This will time out, as I'm sure many of you know, after a few minutes to go back to it. Make sure that you do not just pick up your barcode scanner right here and scan the next items. What is a barcode? A barcode is a representation of characters, usually numbers. And so if you scan a part number right now, you're basically inputting a bunch of numerical values, commands into the system. And if that command contains a 2 or a 2 through 8, you're going to print every sheet in the world. So if you scan something right now, I'm going to print email copy, a full sheet invoice, a duplicate invoice, if those numbers are contained in that barcode, which many times they are. So make sure you're in the habit of either hitting done or 1 on the keyboard to go back to the next transaction so you can begin scanning things and move on with your life. So I want to summarize this by just doing a very quick transaction and not running my mouth through the whole thing so you guys can just watch. Invoice quote, scanning a few items. Let's maybe adjust our quantity on one of these. Customer's going to get 7 of this item. Let's go ahead and add the customer. I'm going to click right here, find Brogan. All I did was type in BRO. He's right here at the top. Double click on him. Let's go down here. I'm just going to click on checkout. Let's take everything cash. Starts me with the value. I hit enter, and we're done. Make sure that we hit 1 or none on the keyboard or clicking to move to the next transaction. And that's the overview of the Paladin basics here. I've made a little slide here for the KB articles, the knowledge base articles that are relevant to what we're talking about here, how to process a transaction, how to add a note, using advanced lookup, etc. here. So make sure that we're using these resources. Knowledge base is always being improved upon, always being added to, so make sure that you're using it. We spend a lot of time building it as an educational resource, and we're really hoping that you guys use it. And if there's anything that we can do better about it, please let us know. Please let us know. All right, guys, as promised, we're going to keep this one rather short today. We're going to go and wrap up so we can get back to unloading a truck or drinking coffee or whatever we were doing before this here. So again, my name's Chad Klein, and thanks for joining us. We'll be doing this here in a couple weeks. Keep an eye on your Feature Fixes updater and Paladin, as we always advertise for our webinars there. So please keep attending. You guys are the fuel that moves this vehicle forward. Thanks so much.